My site used to take 8.7 seconds to load. Now it's down to under 2. And in 2025, users expect nearly instant load times on your website, so it's more critical than ever that we get that time down. If your site is slow, not only will users probably bounce, but Google might not even show your website in search results in the first place. Not only Google, but also all of the AI chatbots that are also now referencing content from the web. So let me give you a very simple step-by-step, almost copy and paste approach that you can take to speed up your website today. This video is sponsored by WP Rocket, an amazing premium plugin that we use to make many of our websites blazing fast. And today I'm going to show you a bunch of things that you can improve on your website, whether you're using WP Rocket or not. To start off with, we want to get a baseline of how our website is performing, but not only are we going to get a baseline, we're also going to figure out what it is that's preventing our website from loading faster. For that, we're going to use a tool called PageSpeed Insights. We can also use GTmetrix. Both of them are going to give you a great breakdown, and they're going to do it for free. For that, you can go to pagespeed.web.dev, or I usually just Google PageSpeed Insights, and it pops up right at the top. And then you enter the URL for a page on your website. Now, that's the thing is, it's only going to be checking that page. It's not checking how your entire website performs, but it's really good to make sure your homepage loads fast, and it's great to check, especially big pages. If you have a landing page, like a sales page, those pages are usually going to be full of images and other content that can slow the load times down. And so getting those pages to load fast are great. If you check a couple of your blog posts here and there and they're doing great, then chances are your normal blog content on your website is all probably doing really good. Here I get a report. It's going to show me mobile and desktop. Usually mobile is going to perform quite a bit worse. And they're going to help me diagnose the performance issues. This is where I got that 8.7 seconds. It took that long for the first page of content to actually completely load so that people could see the content. That's way too long. And we can look down here a little bit further and find out what were the things that slowed us down. Render blocking requests, that's a big one. Image delivery, that's another one. There's several things here, and so we're gonna break it down, and we're gonna go through several of these. These are really common issues, and I'm gonna help you overcome those using some really great tools. Another great way to check this is GTmetrix. The same concept, I can put in the URL for a page, and I can just run it, and it's gonna do a check for me. GTmetrix thinks this website's doing better than PageSpeed Insights does, but it does give me several issues that I can start working on. I really love how PageSpeed Insights gives me a mobile and a desktop version, because we can do a lot of work to improve the desktop speed of our websites, but people are using mobile more and more, and your website should be designed and built as a mobile experience first. It should look good on desktop, but you should really focus on what your website looks like and how it performs on mobile devices. So I'm gonna make sure that I get this performance score way up and I get this speed time way down. Let's jump into the first thing we're gonna do. First, we're gonna turn on caching. That was one of the things that the GTmetrix, in fact, it was the top thing GTmetrix showed me here. It said serve static assets with an efficient cache policy. Now, one of the reasons that this website isn't worse than it is I've already got a great baseline setup. I'm already using a good host with Cloudways. I use Cloudflare as my domain registrar, so I'm already using their CDN automatically, as well as a basic cache. But we're gonna be able to optimize that caching a lot better by using WP Rocket. So I'm gonna go ahead and install that, and you're gonna see the basic setup and how it's super easy to get started. I just go download it from my account on their website. Then I'm gonna go to plugins, add plugin, and I click upload plugin. Choose a file. I'm gonna grab that whole zip file from my downloads and install now. Then I'll activate the plugin, and now there it is. I'm gonna go ahead, I can click on the settings here, or I can go here to settings and go to WP Rocket. Okay, now look at this. WP Rocket's now activated and already working for you, and it should already be loading faster now. That's pretty crazy. I also love that their tutorials and the getting started and stuff, it's all right here in the plugin. I can link to it right from here. I don't have to go separately to their website and go look for all this support. It's just kind of right here. Okay, now here's some of the caching, and we can preload. We can actually go generate the cache right now, ahead of time, and it's already activated. I mean, I didn't have to do anything. I haven't done anything, and the caching is already set up to work. So I keep talking about caching, but let me tell you exactly what caching does. Essentially, what's going on is it's storing a cached version of the pages on your website, the content on your website. So it's preloaded. When people go to click on it, they can view this cached version, and it prevents your servers from having to generate and load up every page every time. It just already knows what it looks like and how it's supposed to function. And that cached page, it's already gone through all the code, seen exactly everything that's supposed to be there and what it's supposed to look like. and just put it together so it can load way faster. And then that cache gets renewed on a regular basis so that when you make updates on your website, if you update a page, it will automatically replace that page in the cache. And then when we pair this with a CDN, it allows people to receive the content from a server that's located really close to where they are, and they're able to view a cached version from a local server. That just loads so much faster than if it has to ping the server wherever you have that code stored, and then it has to load all that code from your servers. Now, there are free ways to do this. I told you I'm using Cloudflare. That's my domain registrar, and so they already have a cache for me too, but this is another layer of caching for me. Now, I can go to the advanced rules, and I can set how long is my cache lifespan, so I can make it longer or shorter. So if I notice that things aren't appearing right, I can shorten that time so that it refreshes that cache more often. Or if I'm rarely making changes to my website, I can make that longer if I want to. I can also specify certain pages that should never be cached. So if there are certain pages on your website, oftentimes like customer dashboard pages, that kind of stuff, you shouldn't cache those. They need to be up to date every single time right after a customer makes a change in their account. For a lot of us, that's not an issue, but if you have e-commerce and you're doing it right on your WordPress site, those pages are great ones to not cache. And all you have to do is put the URL, everything after, in my case, fixturediy.com, then I would say whatever comes after that. So like /customer dashboard, which I don't have that page on this website. I don't need to do that. But that would make it so that that page never gets cached, and it's always gonna ping my server, but just for that page. You can do the same thing with specific cookies or user agents. If you don't know what that is, certain query strings, if you don't know what those are, then you probably don't need to worry about it. Just go ahead and let it cache everything. Also, if I'm doing work on the website and I've made some changes and I just need it to be up to date right away, I just click here at WP Rocket and I just click clear and preload cache. And what that's gonna do is gonna wipe out the cache right now and go ahead and reload it with the fresh content on the website. Okay, now we're gonna talk about optimizing images. This can be one of the biggest things that make a difference to your website. And that's because images, they're often big. I mean, when I take a photo with my phone, I get these huge images that are just way bigger than what people need, especially on a computer screen. And so those file sizes can be very large. Now, fortunately on my phone, Apple has it pretty well optimized, so the file sizes aren't terrible, but they're still pretty big. We want images on our website to be like in the kilobytes, not megabytes, kilobytes. And to do that, we need to optimize them. The other thing too, though, is we want especially large images to only load when it's time for them to load, if a user's scrolling toward them. We don't need them to load immediately. And for that, we can use WP Rocket. For actually optimizing the images and getting the file size down, we're gonna use a different tool. I'll show you that in just a second. First, let's look at what we can do within WP Rocket. Let's go with media. So lazy load. I'm going to lazy load the images. What that does, again, is it's going to make it so that the images only load as I get to where I'm scrolling toward them. That way, when I initially load the page, it's not trying to load a bunch of images further down the page. It's just loading the stuff at the very top. So we're gonna enable lazy load for images. We're also going to enable for the background images. I don't have any on that homepage right now, but if I had a big, actually I do. You know what? This right here, that is technically a background image. So that should help. Granted, that one I don't want to lazy load because it's at the top of the page. So, although that one's gonna load at the very beginning because it's the very top of the page. I also wanna enable this for iframes in videos. Iframes often load really slow because they have to actually go pull that content from another website. Now, this is really cool too. When I enable this for the iframes in videos, I can replace a YouTube iframe with a preview image. So it can take the thumbnail image or whatever and just show it as an image instead of an iframe until someone actually clicks on it. I'm gonna enable that. I'm curious how that's gonna feel on the front end on the website. Ooh, image dimensions, this is good. So if the image dimensions are missing, like in the code, we're gonna add those dimensions. And what that's gonna do also, especially with all this lazy loading and stuff, is it's gonna specify the image dimensions so that when the page loads, it knows how much space to reserve for that image. And that way, it doesn't shift things around suddenly as it starts loading an image. You've probably seen that. You're on a website, right? And you're scrolling, and then all of a sudden it goes to load an image or an ad or something like that, and all of a sudden it pushes the text around. That's not a good user experience, and it's called cumulative layout shift. It's actually something that Google pays attention to, and we want that as small as possible. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. What about fonts? We're gonna preload fonts. This is all like in the image section, right? But this is huge. We're gonna self-host Google Fonts. That's crazy. One of the things that slows down sites a ton is when they run scripts that have to go look at other websites. Analytics scripts are usually pretty bad for this, but Google Fonts, It's like every theme almost all over WordPress, right? You've got all these Google fonts, and whether or not you're using them, you can use a system font like Arial, and still it's gonna load this script to go pull a bunch of Google fonts that you could be using on your website. So instead, what it's gonna do is it's gonna host those fonts on the website. It's gonna go download them and pull them over to the website. And that's gonna make it so that those pages load faster because it doesn't have to go ping Google and pull in those fonts every time. I love this. We're gonna save these changes and turn everything on. I know it seems like I'm excited, like, haven't I used this tool before? And I have, but it's been a while, and I haven't set it up in a while either. And so setting it up on a new website, I'm really excited to see all the cool things that it can do. Okay, so that was media, but down here we've got image optimization, compress your images. Okay, see here they're specifying that they don't actually do this. We need to use another tool for this. And the one they recommend, because it integrates perfectly with WP Rocket, is Imagify. We're gonna go ahead and install Imagify. Catch wants a little bit of love. We all got time for that, right? Now I go to my free account on Imagify, and I need to grab an API key, which they actually emailed to me when I set up the free account. So I'm just gonna go ahead and paste it and click save. Now notice when I update the plugins on the website, WP Rocket sends me a notification saying, hey, some plugins have been disabled or enabled or changed in some way. So if they're gonna affect the front end of your website, you should probably clear the cache right now. And when we clear the cache, it's gonna clear it and preload it again. So now we have our Imagify settings here, and you notice it's right here next to WP Rocket now. We're gonna auto-optimize images on upload. We're gonna back up the originals, and what that does is it allows us to keep that full-size version somewhere so that we always have that full-size version. We can always revert back to it if we needed to. Now by default, it doesn't check this lossless compression. Lossless compression is it's gonna basically look exactly the same. It's just gonna make the image file size a little bit smaller as much as it can without losing anything in the image. Now, that's usually not necessary, especially for the web. If you're like a photography website or something like that, you might want that. But for most of us, we don't want that. Let's go ahead and use their smart compression, and they'll optimize it to make the images look almost like as close as possible, like without most of us humans really noticing much of a difference to the original image, but reducing the file size as much as possible. Now, the next thing we want is this next gen format. We can turn that off if we want, but really, you don't want to do that. We have these new formats for images like WebP and AVIF. AVIF isn't supported on all browsers yet, but WebP really pretty much is. But what that is just an image format that also is a much smaller file size. So PNGs have a lot more data in them, and so they have a bigger file size. JPEGs have a smaller file size. They store less data. WebP is a much more optimized image format so that less data is stored, and it allows us to have our images look really good, but still be a smaller file size. So we're going to have it generate WebP versions of our images because our cameras don't take WebP versions. They take usually JPEGs, or Apple does their high efficiency HEIC version. Then we're gonna check this box to display images in the next gen format, and using the picture tags is the best way to do that. Also, when we upload images to our website, sometimes they're gonna be like 4,000 or 5,000 pixels wide. We don't need that. Here, it's saying, let's reduce image sizes to no more than 2,560 pixels wide. That's still pretty freaking wide. A lot of times you can get away with like 1920, sometimes even like 1200. The only reason I don't go a ton smaller is because a lot of times I want to be able to have an image like this that is like the full width of the web page. If we make all images smaller and then it's got to stretch it back out, it's going to start getting pixelated. So we'll leave it at 2560 for now, and if we need to go smaller because the images are still way too big, then we'll go smaller. And then it's asking, what size images do you want? A thumbnail size, a medium, large, and big. And the cool thing about this is by generating all these different sizes, when an image shows up on a web page, but it's like a smaller version, it's gonna be able to load the smaller version. So even though I'm only reducing these to 2,560 pixels wide, it's gonna generate a version that's only 1,024 pixels wide. And so if I have an image that's gonna show up on the page 900 pixels wide, it can use this large format, and that file's not gonna be very much bigger than what it really has to be to still be beautiful and crisp. Apparently I can also add optimization for the theme. We're not worrying about that right now. Let's focus on the images. So now we're all set with Imagify image optimization, and we're gonna save, and we're gonna go to the bulk optimizer. That's gonna optimize all the images that are already on the website. And then now every time I upload an image, it'll just optimize it as it goes. Okay, so now it hasn't done any, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna Imagify them all. Fortunately, it's a small website so far. It's a great reason to do this at the beginning of a website if you can, because if I had hundreds hundreds of images on the website to optimize right now. I couldn't use the free plan. I would have to go ahead and use a paid plan, which is fine. Go ahead and pay for the plan for a little bit, get everything optimized, and then if you need to, you could back off probably to the free version, because most of the time that can probably keep up with the needs that your website has on an ongoing basis. Okay, now while that optimization is happening, we're also now going to optimize the way all of the other stuff, the other code loads on the website. We're gonna do this by minifying and combining files. Now, there's tools to do this outside of WP Rocket. You can use Autoptimize. That's really the main one. It's been around for a long time, and that's gonna minify all these files for you. But if you're gonna use WP Rocket, you can just do all this right here in the tool, and it does a great job of it. Now, I wanna show you something, and this is why this is important. Okay, now notice this top issue right here, render blocking requests. I click on that, I get all of these CSS things. See this .css, 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 all of these CSS files that need to load before it can load all the content, because the CSS is the style that tells it, here's what it needs to look like. What we're gonna do is we're going to combine all those, and then it's only gonna load the things it needs to load before the page content can load. It's gonna load that first, and then it can defer the rest until after. It's gonna do this for the CSS. It's also gonna do this for JavaScript. I don't have a ton of JavaScript on this page, so that's not causing an issue right now, but the CSS really is. So we're gonna go here to File Optimization. Now, of course, when I turn this on, it's already set to do this. If there are specific CSS files I don't wanna include in the minification, I can always put them here. If you don't know that you need to keep one out, you probably don't need to keep one out, just leave it. Now, so we're minifying here, and that minification just leaves in only the code, only the things that it needs to know, so it can ignore everything else. But then here we can optimize the CSS delivery. So this eliminates the render blocking CSS on the website. So I'm gonna check that box, and I'm gonna remove unused CSS. This is recommended for top performance, but if it breaks the way things look on the website, we can switch to just load it asynchronously. And so that does what I was describing before. That just puts the critical stuff first, and then it loads the rest of it after. We're gonna go ahead and load asynchronously. That way we just make sure we're not breaking anything, but we could maybe speed it up even more just by removing the unused. Now, same thing. We're gonna minify JavaScript files. I'm gonna go ahead and combine things. Again, if we notice issues on the website after this, we can deactivate it, not a big deal. And we can exclude specific JavaScript. If we notice it broke one thing, we can remove that. Now, this also, I'm gonna select this to defer loading JavaScript. So it's not gonna load JavaScript. A lot of times different tools will put JavaScript like in the header, and it'll load it before it loads the content on your page, even if it doesn't need to. Now, if there is certain content or certain JavaScript you need to load at the very beginning, you can exclude that right here. We can also delay the JavaScript execution until the user actually scrolls to the part where they need to use it, or until they click or something like that. So we're gonna go ahead and check that because I'm not, again, using a lot of JavaScript. I'm gonna save changes. So I basically turned on everything. And you can just back off any of these things that take it too far and cause your website to not function correctly on the front end. Okay, now they're telling me like, hey, we really think you should just remove unused CSS instead of loading asynchronously. Fine, we'll try it. We'll see what it looks like. If it breaks anything, it probably won't because again, the website's not very complex yet, but we'll go ahead and change it and save it. Okay, next is we're gonna use a CDN. Now I told you I'm already using a CDN because I'm working through Cloudflare, but I can connect WP Rocket with my CDN. And that way I can manage that CDN right here on my website instead of having to go separately to Cloudflare to go do that. So let's go ahead and integrate it right here. I can pay for their CDN. Now here, I don't need to do anything here because of Cloudflare, but if I want to connect the two, what I'm gonna need to do is look at the add-ons, which I could see right here, or I can click the link here under CDN. And I scroll down to Cloudflare. So I'm gonna go ahead and integrate with Cloudflare. We'll turn on that add-on. Now I can click Cloudflare, and I need to go get an API key. Now I'll save that, and what that's gonna do, it's gonna allow me to clear out Cloudflare's cache, which is the cache that goes out and is delivered to their CDN. It's gonna let me clear that out straight from here, and it's gonna allow me to do some different settings and stuff. So here, we can enhance my Cloudflare configuration based on WP Rocket's recommendations. We'll go ahead and do that. Development mode, that's gonna temporarily deactivate the CDN, and that way I can work on the website, like do development work and have it live like as I'm changing it so that I see the changes as they happen. And then we're gonna leave this relative protocol off. So we're gonna go ahead and just leave it like that. set the optimal settings, and now they're connected. Oh, now they're giving me some stuff here. Optimal settings activated for Cloudflare. The LCP element's been optimized. The images above the fold were excluded from lazy load. See, they do all this automatically. Like so many other tools, I've had to like check a box where it's like, do you want us to not lazy load the images above the fold? Like, duh. So that should help. All of these things should help. Next, the last thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna optimize the database. Now, I told you this is a brand new website, so I probably don't have a lot of bloat and stuff yet, but the database is where like all the information for our website is stored. And that database gets pinged all the time. Every time we add content or anything, and every time we add a new plugin, it ends up creating these new database tables. And anyway, it can get pretty messy. And so, they're going to help optimize the database for us. It's a brand new website and there's already 12 revisions in the database. You take a draft, you save it 5 minutes later, you save it 5 minutes after that. Each one of those draft versions got saved. And unless you're optimizing it, it's never gonna get rid of those old drafts that you don't need anymore, as well as getting rid of trashed posts in your database. So we're gonna just go ahead and do post cleanup, comments cleanup. We can get rid of the spam comments and comments that we've trashed. Transients, cleaning out those transients, optimizing tables. We can do that and it's gonna clean it out right now, but I can schedule a daily or weekly. I'll go ahead and do weekly. I'm not constantly doing stuff on the website. I don't have customers with accounts constantly adding and changing their information. And so weekly is gonna be plenty and then we're gonna optimize. Now, it says run a backup first. You should run a backup first. I can do that by going to my host and I can just request a backup right now. I am gonna go ahead and do that. That's not the point of this video, so I won't show it. And then we'll come back and we'll optimize this. All right, now we're gonna save and we're gonna optimize. Okay, so it got rid of trashed posts, it got rid of drafts, auto drafts, it got rid of revisions, and now it's set to do that every week. And I'm not worried about the backup every week because I get a daily backup of my website from my host anyway, which is awesome. Okay, I am gonna go ahead and clear the cache. I do wanna give it a few minutes to go ahead and preload everything into the cache again, but then we're gonna be ready to test the speed, and I think it's gonna be better. Okay, just with the things we just did in the last few minutes with WP Rocket and Imagify, we took my mobile score from 52 to 91, the desktop score from 80 to 100. Nailed it, right? And this is what's even more important than the overall score. My speed index was 8.7 seconds with the first contentful paint. That's like the first piece of content that, like main content that like showed up so that people could actually interact with my website. 8.7 seconds, that's crazy. Now it's first contentful paint, 1.1. My speed index, 3.7 seconds. That largest contentful paint is still the biggest issue, and that is probably that big image. And if I reduce that size even more, I don't need it to be 2,560 pixels wide. I could probably improve that even better. Notice this render blocking request issue we had before. It's completely gone now. There was some layout shift before. It's not even showing up here at all. We got rid of so many of the issues. There are still a few things we could optimize, and that's gonna speed it up even more. But what you can do in just a few minutes with a tool like this is incredible. And what's impressive to me is you could do it without any technical knowledge. Just follow the steps I just gave you and check the boxes. Even what you get right out of the box without having to do anything is impressive. Now, if you followed along and you did these same things on your website, I'd love to see you comment below. How much did your website speed improve? And I wanna thank WP Rocket specifically for building a tool that we actually use and that's actually worthwhile having and even paying for to make our websites run amazingly fast. And doing it without having to juggle dozens of tools and making it so simple. I invite you to try out WP Rocket. You can use the link I put in the description. It'll make it easy for you. And then I invite you to go check out this video where I talk about how to improve the SEO on your website. Also, very simply without a bunch of technical knowledge and in a matter of minutes. Go watch that next. Your website's gonna be functioning so much better and perform better in search results, both, Google being regular search engines, but also with GEO on all of the AI tools, because you're gonna make your website so much more optimized. Thanks for joining me today here at Income School. We'll see you all on our next video.